welcome to another video lesson of Coding with Marcia. Today we will talk about arrays, more specifically how to create arrays. There are four general mechanisms for creating an array. First, you can create them by transforming a tuple or a list. You can use the built-in functions of numpy to create arrays. You can obtain arrays by joining, mutating, or doing some operation on other arrays. And finally, you can read arrays from data from, for example, a CSV file. The first way of creating an array is to use a data structure such as a list or a tuple and transform it into an array. How do we do that? Let's figure it out. The first thing that we want to do in our Python environment is to experiment with a list and a tuple. So I will define a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will define a tuple, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I will check the type of the list and the tuple. Now we can print the types. And I can immediately do the same for the tuple. Now what I can do is I run the code, and yeah, the type of list 1 is list and the type of tuple 1 is tuple, so everything goes according to plan. And now I will transform the list and the tuple into an array. For that I need to import the numpy package. And I get array 1 from list 1, and I get array 2 from tuple 1. And then I copy this, I change this, I put immediately the type here, and then I'm gonna run. So here you see that originally we had a list and a tuple, then we convert them to array, and now we have two numpy arrays. So second example, whenever you are defining an array from, for example, a list like this, 4, you should define the data type of the array, because an array can only contain elements from one data type. It could be int, it could be float, it could be string, but it could never be an int with several strings or strings with floats and so on. In this case, the type is an integer. I'm gonna select a sufficiently large number. It could be 32, it could be 64, 129, but 32 is enough for this example. And then you define array 1. In case you wanted an array of floats, you could do something like this. You could still pass a list of integers, but if you say that the type is float, for example 64, what happens is that when I print array 1, and when I print array 2, you're gonna get slightly different outputs. And here you see that the array 1 has integers and the array 2 has floats, because you can see the floating point here. Okay, cool. numpy has more than 40 built-in functions just to generate arrays. And we will see 3 or 4 functions of numpy library for creating arrays now. The first one is the arrange. Arrange, you give it 10 and you create an array that will have a range of numbers from 0 to the limit -1, so from 0 to 9. Well, let's print array 1. Let's see. Okay, so you have here an array that has elements from 0 to 9, because the A range always includes 0 when it's specified without a starting point, and you just give it the end limit, and then it goes to the end limit -1, which in this case is 9. Then we could play with arrange and say, for example, that I wanted to start in 1 and have the limit of 10, and then I print array 2, and then you see it started in 1, it went to 10 -1, which is 9. And then we could also play and say I want to arrange from 1 to 11, so that it includes the 10 in steps of 2. And then we print it, and then you have the same limits, but the step is by 2. So far so good. It also may be the case that you want to use arrange with a step that it's a float, that it's a decimal. In this case I would say 1 to 11, 0.1. This is going to give me a much bigger array. I'm going to call it array 4, and I'm going to print array 4. Let's print this. Here you have the numbers increased by 0.1 at each step, and they finish at 10.9 because the limit is 11. Another function that is really useful is the line space. Line space is a bit different from a range because it actually includes the extremes. So if you put from 1 to 10, it will include 10, and if you say 10 that it will include 10 elements in the array, it will produce 10 elements equally spaced between 1 and 10. So you have here this, and then you print array 1. And this gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until 10. So inclusive 10, which did not happen in the previous example. Whenever you want to create an array and you want it to have random values inside, you can use this function from numpy, this sub-package, the random. You can call something like default RNG, which is just to give the seed. I'll call it 23 for randomly assignment, and then a random array with 10 elements, 10 random elements, and I'm gonna call it array 1. Then I'm gonna print the contents of array 1. Another thing that I want to show you is how to create arrays from other arrays. So imagine that I have this array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I call it array 1. I can say array 2 equals array 1, and then I print array 1, and I print array 2. Let's see what's inside. So exactly the same. It looks like it's two different but with the same elements array, but actually it isn't. When you do this, you're just creating a view to the first array. So if I change array 2 by saying that the first element is no longer 1, but it's now, I don't know, 6, you'll see that both arrays will be changed. Okay, as you can see, the first array was also changed because actually you're changing a view to the first array, what we sometimes also call a pointer. Okay, so if you don't want to do this, you can always call np copy array 1, and in that case only the second array will be changed by this operation. Let's see. Again, you have here the 6, but here you continue to have the 1 because actually there was a deep copy of all the elements in the array. And this is a way of creating new arrays by copying or concatenating or merging or combining and doing different multiple operations on the different arrays. Another way to create arrays is to create them from a file, such as a CSV file. Sometimes you have the data in a text file, and in that case there's a way to create an array by reading the data inside the text file. For example, you can use this function float.txt that reads the simple CSV that's on my environment, and then I say that the delimiter, because it's a CSV file, is the comma, and then you put array 1, and then you print the contents of array 1. Yeah. So now that we've covered most of how to create arrays in numpy, it's all for today. Thank you for watching and see you next lesson.